So on the show today, Eric Franklin, founder of the Franklin Method, sort of expert body worker, experiential anatomy. I mean, hard to describe. I think Eric will take us through what the Franklin Method is, but he's well known, well loved. He was at the Embodiment conference and he's on the show today. So Eric, welcome.
Thank you very much. Great to be here.
Yeah, so to sort of say the context a little bit, I'm sitting in a room full of medicines going to the Ukraine tomorrow. I'm currently to Ukraine tomorrow. I'm currently in Krakow, and you're in Zurich, right?
I'm in Zurich, and we also been supporting the refugees. We have on our staff a Ukrainian, and he's up there with lots of things to help at the border. Yeah.
Maybe we'll come back to that, but for now, let's start with your life. How did you get interested in the body and anatomy, Eric? What was the beginning of?
The simple answer is problems. No, I was a dancer. I was a dancer in New York, and I went to NYU School of the Arts. And after that training, everything hurt. My knees hurt, my back hurt, my feet hurt. And I was thinking, okay, dance must be really bad for you, if it does this to you. And then, after a lot of thinking and research, of course, it's not dancing itself that isn't good for you. It's actually very good, very healthy on many levels. But, you have to know what you're doing. You have to understand, good function and body good function to survive that kind of training. And it doesn't just have to be dance, it can be anything. It can be yoga, Pilates, and so forth, which are great modalities. But if you do them in a way, that hurts your body, and mostly we do that because we're not embodying what we're doing. We have no clue what we're doing. We're just imitating some kind of thing the teacher is showing us. And then, that's when you're going to get injured. So yeah, it started with issues, problems, and then what can I do to fix this? I think it's important for the audience to realize this was a long time ago. So this was, sorry to say, 40 years ago. And at that time, there was no imagery. Imagery in sport was just starting. Somatics was just starting out. This whole field, even Pilates was just more at the beginning than it is now. So it was a completely different environment, and the resources were rare. So that's basically how it started, and I can go on. And then I really fell in love with using imagery, and I think I can explain why later. Okay. Because I think it's just one of the safest and most obvious modalities around, because there's lots of research, and we have done research ourselves, and it improves both movement and psychological states. And there's like reams of evidence on it. I always say there's more research on imagery than on surgery. So we know it works, and I'm kind of sad sometimes why not more people use it, because it's free, it's always available, can be adapted to any subgroup, can be used for any kind of exercise system, sport system, and so forth, and it costs nothing, and it's always available. So I think everyone should learn, the nuts and bolts of how to use it. It doesn't take much time. So that's
Eric,
one
reason. When you say imagery, can you give an example, just because people might be actually thinking of it?
Yes, it's mental imagery. It's rather, there's many different flavors. But for example, one is, imagine your head is a balloon and it's floating up and lengthening your spine. Imagine your shoulders are melting down like ice cream and, just flowing down and taking all tension out of your system. Those are metaphorical images. Mm-hmm. And metaphors are really great. They're used in many exercise systems, Pilates, yoga, and so forth, and also sports. They're great because they're easy to understand, and people go, okay, I kind of got that. Now, another category is anatomical imagery. Mm-hmm. So in anatomical imagery, you're trying to visualize, feel your body exactly as it is to avoid problems. Mm-hmm. So for example, let's talk about forward head, forward head. So one instruction you're going to get is, okay, tuck your chin in, lengthen your neck. And when you do that, of course, you've just replaced one form of tension with another form of tension.
Right. And it doesn't seem to last very long either.
And it won't last very long, right? Yeah. So another solution is to embody the proper function in this area. For example, how does the head sit on top of the spine? show me the play. So when you teach, we like student-centered teaching. So that is not always telling people what to do. People always, are listening, do this, do that, do this exercise, instead interview people, ask them. So where do you think the head sits on top of the spine? And then people point to all kinds of places like this, and you can see their embodiment of what they think that is. And then you say, well, in reality, it's a very balanced thing. So in humans, not in, other or earlier versions of us, the head is sort of like a seesaw on top of the top vertebrae. So very balanced. So let's find that fulcrum. The fulcrum is between your earlobes. So touch your earlobes, everyone. And then under the earlobes, there's a bone called the mastoid process. And now draw a horizontal line between these 2 points. And imagine that's the fulcrum of the seesaw of your head, and just nod your head. And you can push up a little bit on these 2 points, getting a little more length, and just a very easy seesawing motion. So if a feather would fall on your nose, it would be enough for your head to go like that. And if a feather would fall on the back of your head, it would be enough for you to go like that. You do that a few times, visualizing the proper location, embodying the proper location of where your head sits on the spine. And most people will feel, oh yeah, my posture is improved already a little bit, yeah? And that's just the very beginning. So that's an example of anatomical embodied process and imagery right to there. But a lot of people understand imagery under another notion. It's called motor imagery. And that is where you don't do a movement, but you imagine a movement you want to improve and try to do it perfectly. For example, I'm going to throw a spear, all the way over there. I'm going to hit that dart into, that spot in the middle there, but I'm not going to actually do it. I'm just going to visualize that I'm doing that. And we know that works as well. So you can do imagery with movement. You could do it without movement. You can do it as metaphors. You can do it anatomically. And there's more flavors to that as well. So, for example, you can see yourself from the outside doing something. You can see yourself from the inside doing something. That's called perspective. The imagery can be outside your body, inside your body. And the goal can possibly be psychological. So it's also about improving mood, concentration, cognition, and many things like that. So basically using imagery also can improve, your brain. And there's a few reasons for that.
Yeah. And Eric, this is a masterclass in imagery. I mean, I'm quite a geek for this stuff, but this is already you've really studied this stuff. I can see this is fantastic. So it's nice to geek out. Let's go back a little bit to the sort of Franklin method, all the different parts of it. Then, so was it an outgrowth of another system? Was it a combination of different systems? Tell us something about the genesis of it, and maybe then the main constituents of it.
Well, basically, what I did is I went around and just tried out every somatic thing that was around. So there was yoga, there was reflexology, there was ideokinesis. Bonnie Cohen was just starting out. She was the beginning back then, and there were other things. A little bit of Feldenkrais was there, and that's basically what was available, and some other dance-related types of movement, like no one's heard of it probably, Hawkins technique. And then there were imagery-based methods, improvisational methods, improvisation with imagery. And in dance, you use a lot of imagery. And this was all great. But when faced with a skeptical audience, and also with an audience that just, okay, what can you do for me? Okay, that's big. You have to do something practical. So you have to do something where they feel, this is for me. This is not just some weird thing this person wants to the next thing, that we're all supposed to be doing. So I had to find out ways to start from, to pick up the students from their interest level and go, okay, look, this actually can work for you. And an example of that, because I worked in sports and dance most in the beginning. So an example of that, if I come in to teach a group of dancers, I don't come in and say, you guys need to learn anatomy and embody it. They all go yawn and they leave,
Right, yeah,
they're not interested. I say, okay, what do you want? Do you want, they have a thing like higher legs.
Yeah,
you want to get your legs higher. Or do you want to have better turnout, okay? Or stronger feet? So who votes, okay, what we start with higher legs, right? And then I just do a little process where they feel, wow, this really works, and then I tell them afterwards, and you see, we did it by learning a little bit of anatomy and embodying it. And then they get interested and they want to know more.
Right.
We actually did a whole study on that.
What they care about.
So we did a whole study on how imagery improves développé performance kinematics and mental imagery ability in university level dance students. So we actually have a whole thing on that. So that's an example. Or I worked, for example, in gymnastics, and there it was the same thing. You're on the parallel bar, and usually it's like, okay, stretch your foot a little more, shoulder blade further down. And I started giving them imagery. So imagine, your spine is a flexible rod of pearls or something for someone who had difficulty, with enough flexibility in their spine. And then afterwards they come back and say, that actually worked for me. I thought it was really weird when you told me, but it worked.
I mean, I've seen some research saying for athletic performance, it's best not always to sort of feel the body, particularly, to focus on the body, particularly in a sort of strictly anatomical sense. So often,
but that's the whole discussion about inner and outer focus. But the thing is, there's no way you can improve movement without knowing what you're doing wrong. And that information comes from your proprioceptors. So if you're going to leave out proprioception, you're never going to know if a movement is better or worse. I think outer focus is great for certain things that I mentioned before. For example, if I want to throw a dart into the center of a target, I'm definitely going to use outer focus.
You're not going to focus on your elbow or something while throwing the dart.
Exactly. I'm not going to say my shoulder is relaxed or I'm using the right muscle. And that's a big misunderstanding. That's not. There's many examples of where you definitely want to use outer focus. And, I know where that's coming from. And the example there, of course, is, surfing, or no, was it windsurfing? If I were windsurfing, I would not use inner focus. I would definitely look at the waves and the wind and things like that, right? So that is not a moment to use, this kind of thing like that. But for example,
critical difference between where you would and wouldn't. So, I mean, I'm with you on the proprioception. Like I recently, I've been weight training quite a lot. My gym instructor was quite astonished at how quickly I corrected my move. And first of all, he was astonished that I was doing them mostly right in the first place, because I could feel if there wasn't an alignment. Why would I put 40 kilos for that? And the second thing he was astonished by was like, oh, when I give you an instruction, you're able to do it.
And that's because you're embodied. That's because you're
but he said that was weird.
Yeah.
I was like,
because you can feel what your coach is talking about, right?
Yeah. So I can see the correction for sure.
So I worked with at US weightlifting in Colorado Springs. Okay, those are the basically people that will end up at the Olympics, and there's a very extreme there, and their main thing is, I do not want to get injured, because that's the end. And so, for example, there it was all about the sacroiliac joint, how to use that joint in a balanced fashion to not wreck your lower back when you're lifting these weights. And there is no way to balance the sacroiliac joint with an outer focus. That's going to be really hard to do, to find an image that's going to do that. So I think that in many instances, outer focus is great, but there are certain ones where you want to be really specific about a joint or a muscle or a fascia. You're going to have some internal focus as well. And even bodybuilders, what they often do is they touch the muscle they're working on, so they can feel it.
Muscle connection.
Yeah. So if you can't feel the muscle that you're training, you're probably not training it, they say.
Yeah. The bodybuilders.
If you can't feel the muscle you're training, you're probably, and we know that just focusing on a muscle actually increases its tone, activates it more. So I think there's a place for both external and internal focus, but especially in dance, external focus. Dancing is the ability to sense your body, expressing beauty, feeling beauty, telling a story with your body. How are you going to do that only with outer focus? It's not possible.
Yeah, most dancers I've met are pretty dissociated. And there is a difference between men and choose to move skillfully between the two, right?
Exactly. So, for example, you could have inner focus for one movement, and then you want to do a pirouette, and there I would recommend outer focus, for example, with spotting. There's something called spotting.
Yeah.
But the thing is also to try different things. So if you have a student or a client, give them an outer focus, give them inner focus, and see what works. There's no argument. If the inner focus works better, use that. If the outer focus works better, use that. So I usually present a smorgasbord of things. So people can try, and then I say, what do you like?
What are the other things, because we've talked a lot about imagery already, which is great. What are the other things that are part of the Franklin method?
Well, part of the Franklin method is, of course, embodied anatomy. And we've talked about that a little bit. So what is anatomy versus embodied anatomy? So I've gone to many schools to teach movement people that have had anatomy, and I've noticed it didn't transfer into movement. It's like not really helping them to move better because it's not embodied. One classic example is dancers have a lot of knee injuries and lower back injuries. And in lower back injuries, for example, we know that is more prevalent in people that can't disassociate their femur, their leg bone, from their pelvic bone. So the way you would do this is you would say, okay, everyone, take your fingers and put them in the air and touch your hip joints. Let's see where our embodiment is for hip joints. And a lot of people will touch out there or touch their colon or touch somewhere. So they're not embodying where the joint is. And if you don't know where a joint is, it's going to be hard to move correctly from that joint or do what you call in dance a battement. And then what you're going to do, you're going to use your pelvis instead. You're going to twist your supporting leg, your supporting knee is going to twist. And that is also why you have a prevalence of knee injuries and lower back issues in dance. And so we help them, okay, here it is, it's in the middle of this crease, start moving from your hip joint. Then you show them the location. So you say, look, this is the proof, this is a femur. And if you put a femur on your leg, you can see exactly, okay, this is where the hip joint is located. And then you could show it to them from their perspective like that. You see, so they really feel it there in the hip joint. And, you know, another big thing is dancers, and in general, there's a lot of interest in that. General population have a lot of anterior hip pain, and that goes right into this department. So another thing we talk about in the Franklin method is evolution. So if you look at the hip joint from an evolutionary perspective, when we were quadrupeds, we had much better coverage of the socket over the femur head. And now, if you come up like this, you'll see in our posture, the coverage is much worse. So if you have much worse coverage, you add to that a lot of the cues people get, in many exercise systems, they're still getting them, like tuck your pelvis, you know, pull your belly button in. That's going to move the pelvis posture like that, get even worse coverage. And now you have the femur head pushing against the front of the socket and hurting this labrum here. So you want to embody the femur head pushing up and back in the socket, for example, in a variety of movements. And then we slowly practice that. You bounce on the femur heads, we call that. And we try to really feel the femur head pushing properly into the socket. Another principle of the Franklin method. So it's student-centered. We try to develop things with the student. We don't tell them, okay, this is where the hip joint is. Is that clear? Then everyone nods, but I can tell you it's not clear.
Yeah, they don't own it.
Right.
It's kind of like coaching.
So you have to ask them, where do you think it is? Okay, let's try to visualize that. Let's try to feel that, practice with it. Why would that be a good idea? Well, it improves function. You're going to have more flexibility. Your back will be happier. You're going to save your labrum, things like that. And then we talk a lot about evolution. So, you know, your body was designed for certain functions. Sadly, it wasn't designed for many of the exercise systems that we have today. And that doesn't mean they're bad. The body was designed primarily for walking, running, we all know that, climbing, maybe throwing, carrying, digging, things like that. So we have to look at the body from that perspective. It's all designed, you know, mostly for efficient walking. And a lot of people have to have learned about exercise. They learned it from through a lens of an exercise system. For example, through the lens of yoga, through the lens of Pilates, through the lens of all the other things that are out there. And I've discovered that can be confusing. And I think it's
That's a
great
gentle
to
way of saying it, Eric. That's a very polite way of saying it.
yes, and that can be confusing, right? And then you have ideas that sound anatomical that are actually not anatomical at all. And one, for example, is in dance and also other systems, they are not mentioning anything, but thanks to when you rotate like that, in this money exercise, we rotate, you're supposed to lengthen your spine, right? The truth is the spine shortens a little bit when you rotate your spine. To protect something very important, which is the spinal cord. So here's the spinal cord, which is in the spine, and it's made of millions of nerves. And when the spine rotates, the last thing you want is these nerves to be rotated and lengthened. That's how you tear something apart. So what the spine does is its structure, and we don't want to get into it right now, but because of the structure of the joints and the ligaments and the discs and so forth, right? The spine shortens a little bit to protect the spinal cord. Another example of that, shoulder blades should go down and in, that's another so-called cue. But when you lift your arms, the shoulder blades have to go out. So if you have the idea in your head that they should go down and in, you have a conflict between your function and your idea in your head. Yeah. And that creates tension. Tension is an argument with your function. So that's another thing we address. And there's many more examples, like lift your kneecaps was a thing you get told. And then, of course, when you bend your knees, the kneecaps have to go down. And then that's why you're going to create more compression and create. So we talk a lot about, okay, cueing. What is sensible cueing? What are some cues that are fantasy, that are just, hearsay? And what is the actual anatomy? So we work a lot on clarifying that as well. So embodied anatomy, using imagery to improve movement and psychological states, talking about evolution, talking about what the body was actually structured to do, and then trying to teach our exercise system that we've learned, whatever it is, through that lens, so we don't get injured. I mean, another example is there were 2 articles in the New York Times about hip injuries from yoga. Mm-hmm. That doesn't mean yoga is bad. It just means the way you're doing your yoga is not functional, and you're gonna hurt your hip. And then another thing, of course, is talking about the relationship between mood and movement.
Okay. Yep. Tell me about that.
Okay. So one exercise you can do. So if you're listening to this or watching, one exercise you can do goes like this. So posture. Everyone slouch like this. Everyone slouch, like really slouch, and now say, I feel great. I feel wonderful. I feel so good, right? And this is a mismatch. You don't say that thing, in this posture. Then take your arms up like this, stretch them up like that, and say, I feel awful.
Feel awful.
It doesn't make another mismatch. No, if you're like this, you don't feel awful, right? So it's a mismatch. And so if I go like this, I call, if you go like this, like that, even if you're not in a good mood previously, if you go like this, just for a few moments, shake your arms like this, if you're cheerleading or cheerleading for yourself, you go like that for a moment. And then afterwards you go, oh yeah, not so bad. It's not so bad today, like things are okay.
Yeah, I feel like as embodiment practitioners, we have these tools that are so at hand, like posture and breath and movement, and can shift things so quickly. And it almost feels like cheating at being a human,
Exactly. So, the fastest way to change your movement is to change your mind about the movement. So let's just try this. So comparing mood, motivational imagery with just like, general instructional image. So if you take your arms up like that, let's try 2 versions. Yeah. So everyone, please imagine your arms are floating up like a balloon, or there's a wind blowing from behind us and just blowing the arms up like that. And you just love doing this. My favorite move is to lift my arms. And notice how that feels. Version number 1. Version number 2. I'm really exhausted today and I'm kind of bored, and my arms feel like really heavy and tired, and I don't really want to do this. So Well, I'll do it anyway, just because this presenter wants me to lift my arms. So everyone, please lift your heavy, exhausted arms. Exactly. And now most people will notice the difference. So
Yeah.
the body is following what you're thinking. Which
Here's one for you. Imagine you've just someone's pointing a gun at you and you've had to put your arms up to surrender. That's going to be different again, right? It's going to feel completely different.
Exactly. But now the interesting point is, okay, so, every day we go around and say, how are you doing today? Or, how are you? We say that. And usually you get the answer, fine, okay, I'm hanging on or whatever.
Yeah, busy.
But if people have a specific issue with their body, they'll often they will be very, specific, and they'll say a lot about it. Yeah, I don't know what it is. I have this pain here, and I've into the PT, and it keeps hurting, and if I shift over here, it hurts as well. And and they go on and on like that. And I go, I'm so sorry, like that's really bad, and acknowledge it and try to support you. But hardly ever, do we say, hi, how are you doing today? So what Mark asked me, how are you doing today, Eric?
How are you doing today, Eric?
Well, today I woke up and I just felt my spine was so free and flexible. My head was floating up like a balloon, and my diaphragm was free, and my breathing was just so comfortable. I was just enjoying breathing. And when I walked, it just felt so soft and, perfect. You're going to think this guy's nuts. Very rarely does anyone, spontaneously say something really positive, like,
or even just give a detailed description. Even if it was negative, it would be like something like, no one says, oh, I'm holding a lot of tension in my right trapezius, and I'm, my jaw's kind of tight and my eyes feel sleepy. Even that level of specificity would be unusual, right? So it's not just,
it would be unusual. No, but what I'm saying is they wouldn't come and say, okay, today my jaw is really relaxed.
Oh, I see. They're not going to come in and tell you that.
They wouldn't. You don't hear that.
Come to you with a problem.
No, and then, sometimes, when we do back workshops, right? So works with the back. So people are like, what is your goal for your back? And then, say, okay, my goal for the back is, I want to be free of pain. And we go, okay, that's a good starting point. But, that's a blue elephant. A blue elephant is if you want to be free of pain, what are you focusing on? What is your brain thinking about? Pain, right? Yeah. So what's the opposite of pain?
Free movement, pleasure, ease.
Exactly. So you asked the audience, so your goal is comfort and pleasure in your spine. Everyone say that out loud. I want to have a comfortable, pleasurable spine. And people get uncomfortable saying that. It's like I want to have pleasure in my spine. Yes, I want to have, but right now I have.
It's like the best people can hope for is a lack of pain. Right, like there's normal and there's painful, and normal is sort of just a lack of pain. That's the sort of normal assumption, I would say. Yeah,
but I mean, the thing is, let's face it, people are chasing after this elusive thing of feeling good, and usually trying to achieve it with outer means. If I have that, or if that person would like me, or if this relationship will work out, I'll be happy. But you're basically down to your life experiences. How does my body feel right now? And how do my thoughts feel right now? How are my thoughts?
Everything points that way, right? Whether it's the Lamborghini making you feel good, or the bank account making you feel good, or the status or whatever, it's all still coming back to how do you actually feel?
Exactly. And so if you're not embodying feeling comfortable, or it just, your body doesn't feel good, you can have all the Lamborghinis and it's still not fun. And the thing is, you can incrementally teach that. So there's something called the 4 steps in the Franklin method. So I don't come in and say, I'm teaching positive thinking. I don't teach positive thinking. It's like, if someone is pain and I tell them, you should say, I feel great. And I go, but I don't feel great.
Yeah, no, I've tried that. Try that with my Ukrainian friends right now. They would, they tell you
exactly. They would so, but what you can do, okay, status quo is, I'm depressed, I feel bad, my body feels I'm exhausted, and like that's that starting point. And then we go, okay, but what is our goal? We have to have a goal. So the goal is, peace, comfort of my body, my goals are back, I can see where I'm going. And then of course, the third is how to achieve that, how can I get there? And, It's a huge thing. So why don't we start with something really small? So we're going to start today with just feeling a little better in our neck, for example, just as a little piece of our whole life experience, right? So, just to give them a little that. So everyone put your hands on your neck like that, and then squeeze your neck a little bit with your hands like this, or just squeeze your hands as if you're squeezing a sponge. So the image is squeezing a sponge. Move your head a little forward and back, or, sideways, or rotate your head, whatever you feel like doing, like that, sideways, rotation, up and down. Good, then take your hand away, and then notice, does your neck feel just a little bit, better like that? So that little aspect of your life, neck, feels a little bit better. So at least there, so you go like that. So little things like that, or shoulders. This is an exercise that's everyone's favorite.
Shoulders are good. Let's do shoulders, and I've got some sciatic pain. Okay. So that would be a good example as well at some point.
Okay, good. So the next thing, so we have the 4 steps. So the 4 steps are, where am I at? What do I want? What are the tools that are really available to me? And then act on the tools. And as I said, imagery tools and proprioceptive tools are always available for you. So imagery is mind-body, and proprioception is a body-mind tool. So the neck sponging is a body-mind tool, because you did something, with your hands to the body, and your brain notices, oh, I feel more comfortable. So that's a body-mind tool.
Should we do shoulders? I think lots of people have stiff shoulders.
Okay, shoulders, very simple. So you take very similar principle. You take a hand, put it on your shoulder, but the thumb is touching the neck. Then you're going to squeeze the shoulder as if you're squeezing a sponge. Then you're going to roll the shoulder. And when the shoulder is at the top, you squeeze, and when it comes down, you let go. Good. And then it's going the other direction, like that. And squeeze and let go. And now shake your arm a little bit and lean to the side. So I'm shaking like that, the arm a little bit. Tap your arm. Give your arm a nice tap, like that. We're tapping our arm all the way from the shoulder, fingertip. Shake your arm a little bit, just like do a very, fun shake. And then just compare the sides for a moment. Compare the shoulder. Anyone feel a difference? Lift your arms, you feel a difference in flexibility between the 2 sides, right? So now we've achieved a little more fun for our life in this shoulder.
My left arm is more fun than the right.
Exactly. Right now, the arm is a more fun part of my existence. Then we do the other side. So you roll your shoulder, you squeeze. And now, of course, you're using mind body. So imagining it's a sponge you're squeezing. You're squeezing water out of the sponge. But you're also using body mind, because you're touching your body and sending proprioceptive signals up to your brain, which can then use those signals to improve your movement. Then we're going to shake our arm a little bit. Shake a little bit. Very good. Then tap your arm, tap all around. And shake your arms like that. So I've done this with a lot of sports teams as well. And because if you shake and you tap, well, first of all, you notice now probably even the spine is a little more lengthened. Yeah, spine is a little more lengthened, shoulders more dropped. So a lot of athletes, before they, do their thing, whatever their competition is, they tap, like sprinters will tap their legs. And swimmers will shake like that, before they jump in the water. No one stretches. You don't stretch before, something like that.
Yeah.
Because it reduces reaction speed of the muscle. But you do shake, you tap, you do things like that.
You're just trying to get more in their bodies and more body aware.
Well, it revs up the muscles and improves the tone of the muscles and improves performance. But if you think about it, in daily life, what an easy thing this would be to do, just to tap and to shake. If you just shake your arms for a moment like that, and you just shake.
Yeah, I do tapping quite a lot, just on my body, rub my face. I do a little bit of self-massage. I do that quite a lot. And
excellent. Yeah. So these are starter exercises. So people say, wow, it's not that hard to feel better in my body. Because if you come with super complicated things like, look, you have to do this exercise now, stretch that arm this way, and then here, touch there, and then do like,
you could teach someone how to do that in 5 minutes, even if they're like I'm not an embodiment person, they could get that, what you just showed. I'm going to be very selfish now. I don't suppose you've got anything good for sciatic pain. I grew my glutes too quickly and trapped my nerve underneath my piriformis. Any good sciatica type ones? Yeah,
well, okay. But I would also like to, let's do something for that. And then afterwards, let's do something for breathing.
Okay.
This nice little breathing process, which is going to be good for the stressful situation we're in right now on the planet, right? So the first thing I would do in that case, I would show the audience, and I'm not really fully equipped for everything right now, but I'll do my very best. I'll show the audience where the piriformis muscle is located. So the piriformis muscle attaches here to the sacrum and it goes over there to the femur. So first I'll show this right here, 1 second. So it goes like this from the sacrum, from the front of the sacrum, attaches broadly to the front of the sacrum, goes over to the femur. Let's look at this model here. It's a little more involved. So there we have the piriformis right there. See, it's a huge muscle like that. And let's see, we have, yes, we do. So on this side here, I don't know if you can see it. So we're looking at a model of the piriformis, and then here you can see the sciatic nerve.
Great. So for listeners on the podcast rather than YouTube, make sure you go to YouTube. Eric's got a little model here, and he's showing the sciatic nerve right underneath the piriformis muscle.
Exactly. So we're going to release tension here in the piriformis. We're going to use a simple exercise to do that. Maybe add a little stretch afterwards, although it's more about releasing the tension right through here and balancing this nerve. So what we have to know about nerves, we never think about it, but nerves also move when we move. So they have to slide a little bit. So nerves are not straight the way that you see them in books, but they're like wavy, extremely wavy like this. So they run in waves so they can lengthen nicely. And they're surrounded by fascia. However, what they really don't like is compression. So we want to release some of that. So the way to do it is, I'm just quickly fetch my skeleton here. So you want to find this part of the femur, which is the greater trochanter. And then, and I'm going to show you how to find it in a moment. And then you want to put your fingers behind the greater trochanter at the top, behind there, because that's where the tendon of the piriformis attaches to this bone. So it would be right about there. And then we're going to rub there while we do leg movement. So just adjust my camera a little bit so those who are going to watch this can see it. So you're going to go up the side of the leg there until you feel like something hard, and that's going to be the greater trochanter.
Yep.
So you find that, so up there, and then you feel that, okay? There at the side. So don't go around here like that, just go up the side of the leg, and then it's usually easy to find. It's not the iliac crest, so it's not this here. Don't get it confused with that. That's much higher up. Then you put your weight on the other leg, so not at the side you're touching, so you're behind there. And then you're going to rub behind there, and I'm going to do it with my thumb. You could also do it with a ball or something. I'm going to rub behind there and turn my leg in and out like that. And it will probably hurt a little bit. Does that hurt?
Yeah.
Tender, yeah. So really try to find that. And if you go a little bit towards the sacrum and keep rubbing there, you might feel the muscle bulging as you turn your leg in and out. So I'm turning my leg in and out, you see, in and out, and I'm rubbing there. And that's the piriformis that you're releasing right to there. And then the next thing you want to do, and now I'll turn the camera down here a little bit to the chair. Hope you can see this. Move this all forward a little bit. Get the sponge out of the way. And you can put your leg on the chair like that, on the same leg of the same side, right?
Okay.
Show it from the other side like that. And then you just tap right through there. That whole area you just touched, you're going to tap it a little bit. You can do it with your fist, or you can do it with a ball. You're going to tap that, lift the leg, tap a little bit. Good. And then finish up with just like a little gentle squeezing of the gluteus all around here. Just a nice little squeeze of the gluteus. All right. Good. Squeeze and tap. And then we're going to compare sides for a moment. See if you feel a difference between the sides. So first, lift your leg on the side we just practiced. So lift your leg. Notice what that feels like. Notice how free your hip is, and compare to the other side. Maybe also swing your leg forward. How does that feel on the side you practice compared to the other side? And some of you feel the hamstrings are, tighter on the side you didn't practice yet. The hip is tighter. And now, very interestingly, if you stand on the leg you just practiced, you'll probably notice that you're more balanced on that side. Somehow your pelvis is more lifted. And the other side, you feel like less balanced.
Yeah, definitely balance difference.
And now exactly, more balance. And now do a hop on the side you practiced. And now do a hop on the side you didn't practice. And you probably feel on the side you didn't practice like more heavier and stiffer, and not as comfortable. So let's do the other side. Find the trochanter. Find the trochanter, rub behind the trochanter. So this is just a very easy daily thing you can do to release the piriformis and take tension off that sciatic nerve. So you're going to rub behind the greater trochanter, turn the leg in and out, try to find that muscle, give it a good rub. Very good. That's right. Breathe, of course. Exactly. Then give it a nice tap. Good. Very good. Squeeze. Then we're going to do our little stretch there on the chair. Of course, you could have your leg much higher up. So, and then I tap a little bit on that side and go forward a little bit. Very good. Then tap both sides to balance out. Notice pelvic posture. Let's add one more exercise right onto that to release lower back tension. Okay. So very simple exercise, because lower back and legs are very connected here. You have the thoracolumbar fascia, which connects the lower back to the sacrum and the fascia of the legs. So first, we're just going to feel our lower back. So move your lower back a little bit. What does it feel like? So move to the right, left. Just notice, is it comfortable or tight? And then number two, our goal is for the back just to feel a little freer, more comfortable, and released. Then you're going to take your knuckles, the knuckles of your hand like that, and we're going to actually put them on our lower back and move the knuckles back and forth like this. And they're going to move our pelvis in opposition to that. So you can really rub back there. Nice warmth. Very good. Excellent. Back and forth, nice and fast. And then we can go up and down as well. Like that. Up and down. You can even do that with a little bounce if you want. Yeah, a little bounce. Good. Excellent. And then just notice your lower back. Move your lower back. Does it feel a little more lengthened? Does it feel freer? More comfortable? Maybe take a few steps. Good. So let's do two more things. We have time for two more little things.
Yeah, we got 10 minutes.
Okay, well,
maybe one.
Okay, well, they're very fast. They're not going to take much time. So 3 or 4 minutes each. So if you're sitting on a chair listening to this, do the following. Okay, stand up and sit down, which is, by the way, great exercise for your brain, because by standing up and sitting down, you're fluctuating very subtly the blood pressure, the blood flow to the brain, and that stimulates the capillaries in a way that the endothelium gets the inner layer of the capillaries and the vessels get more regenerated. It helps regenerate the brain vessels. So standing up and sitting down is very helpful. But what we're going to do is we're going to put our hands in our armpits while we do that. And imagine our shoulders are melting down onto our hands. It's not really happening because that wouldn't be fun, but just standing up and sitting down. Standing up and sitting down, good. Just imagine your shoulders dropping down at your hands. Then go for a walk with your hands in your armpits, or go jogging for a moment with your hands in your armpits. Exactly. Good, then take your hands away. And notice your posture. You'll probably feel that your spine is more lengthened, your shoulders more dropped. And just also notice how that's affecting your mind. The fact that you're more lengthened in your spine and your shoulders more dropped. So just last thing we're going to do is for the most important muscle of breathing. Breathing has been quite of an issue the last 2 years, right?
Yeah.
So major issue. So it's always good to do things for breathing. And the most important muscle of ventilation. So the first step in breathing is to get the oxygen in the body. And that happens because the diaphragm, the muscle right here, goes down and expands the lung together with the ribs. So let's find the diaphragm in our body. It attaches to the bottom of the sternum, the bottom of this bone here at the front. It attaches to the lowest 6 ribs and attaches to the lumbar spine. And, you know, it's kind of interesting. So if, if your bicep stops working, it's not so comfortable. You can't bend your elbow as well. Glutes or if you have tight fascia, it's uncomfortable. If your diaphragm stops working, you're gone within minutes. Yeah. So it's kind of the most important muscle to maybe do something for every day. But, it's not just telling people, okay, now let's breathe freely, breathe comfortably. I mean, what does that mean for the average person that's like, I don't know, I think I'm doing that, right? So we have to create that feeling. And what we're going to do is, the first thing, we're going to tap the general area the diaphragm is located. So just give it a little bit of a tap. And then we're going to do that exercise we did before that we know has an effect. So if you shake your arm, which is going to wiggle all the muscles around the bones, just a little bit of a shake, and the arm is already freer. So if you compare, that'll free up your arms. So now we're going to do the same thing for our diaphragm. So what we're going to do, everyone who's listening here, is we're going to move our rib cage back and forth rapidly and make a sound, which will help us hear the state of our diaphragm. So we're going to go, oh, let's make a sound. Very good. Oh, good. And now the next exercise is we're going to imagine the diaphragm, which is this dome-like shape, to be a trampoline bouncing up and down. So a trampoline. So bounce up and down and just bounce your diaphragm and you make a sound like this. And shake again. Bounce up and down. Very good. Then just stand here for a moment. And just for a moment, just feel your body and no thinking, we do plenty of that. So just stand here and feel. And notice, do you feel just a little more comfortable? Is it just a little more fun to be in your body?
It is. I needed that today, Eric. Thank you.
It's just that, that's the whole thing. If you can make it more fun to be in a body, that's good, because the news is there's no replacement body waiting for you. So this is it, And I always say, so, because I have a lot of movement teachers, so what would be more valuable, you think, in general? So just giving your client another exercise or showing them how to be just comfortable in their body? I like being in my body, and that ties into body schema, body image. So people are not comfortable being in their body. or they had traumatic experiences, and things like that. So being more comfortable in your body is kind of an asset.
Wonderful, Eric. That's brilliant. I love this frame of having, it being fun to be in your body, not like you should be in your body.
Exactly. Or you should be fit like this or fit like that, or like I'll only be liked if I have this asset in my body. It's like so stressful. What about just feeling good in my body?
So many people focusing on sort of exercise, but not necessarily actually even enjoying their bodies.
Exactly. There's a lot of people that are very fit to do a lot of, but they're not really having fun in their body.
I'd see in the gym, there's half the people who look like they're enjoying it and half who really don't. I'm like,
exactly. Yeah, half do and half don't. Exactly.
And how have you found this whole sort of online movement? I mean, the last few years, like me, you've been, teaching online in a big way. I mean,
exactly.
How's it been for you?
Well, it's very interesting because before this all started, I was like a little bit, I wouldn't say a burnout, but I was traveling constantly, nonstop, here and there and everywhere. And I was just getting like, I'm more than half a year I was on the road. I was thinking, I'm not going to be able to do that forever. And so on a level when this happened, well, the first phase, it was just like, what are we going to do now? Every conference canceled and every event canceled. And like, first it was a bit of freak out, but I was already practiced with online because I had been doing online courses. So we started this free, webinar series, and we did how to breathe better and, have healthy lungs through embodiment. And that was very popular. And then we started doing more stuff like that online. And the audience, a large part of our audience is German and Swiss and Austrian, who were not used to it all online. First, they kind of resisted a little, but then they got like used to it. That's pretty good. When the class is over, I'm already at home. So that's pretty nice.
Nice, isn't it? This is the Ukraine, the first time I've been for a while for work. It's pretty, yeah. Just because I'm in Ukraine tomorrow, any thoughts on trauma or stress or anything of that nature?
Well, I would highly recommend, the thing is, the mind can really torture us. And I've had my share of trauma in the last few years. Believe me, I don't want to talk about it right now, but serious stuff. So what really helps is, trying to sit down. I'm going to meditate now, which is great, or I'm going to stop my thinking. It's sometimes really hard. So what we just did, for example, the diaphragm shake, the diaphragm tap, just like free up that diaphragm, free your breathing, get the tension out of your shoulder and neck, can work magic, because it's, trapezius, sternocleido, they're innervated by, a cranial nerve. And so they're very related to our sense of self, sense of balance, sense of gait. So if you can release those, we'll do something for the sternocleido next time. Then it just like really helps. And back and things like that. Okay. So do those, just go hide in a cupboard and shake your diaphragm.
I can do it with my team. Okay. It's no problem. We can do it together. Listen, I've got a Polish driver outside waiting for me. I want to make sure I grab it. So where do people find you, Eric, on the internet? Where's the best place to go?
Well, you can come to our website, franklinmethod.com. We have also a YouTube channel. We're on Instagram, Facebook, and all those things. But yeah, just come and sign up for some of our free online stuff. And we actually have something for you. We have a Fit and Healthy with Imagery webinar workshop that's free. If you were here, you can sign up for that. And also a bunch of other videos we give you. Excuse me?
Do people need a code or anything for that?
Do we need a code or anything?
We just go to Franklin, that's FRANKLIN method.com, right?
Right. Yeah, exactly. Or you can write us at info@franklinmethod.com. But let me just quickly check if there's any information on that that I missed here. Yeah, I have a link here. Is there a way shall I send? The link is franklinmethod.com /embodiment podcast.
/embodiment podcast, because the people
in between, yeah. Exactly.
Okay, but I'm sure if they message you, if they can't get that, they can always message you and
exactly, info@franklinmethod.com. Exactly. Okay.
All right. Eric, closing message about the body?
It's the only one you got. So work every day to enjoy how it feels and improve its function, because I don't believe, especially the whole topic of aging, the more you age, the more you need to work on your efficiency. The whole thing about that you're going to, wear out your body through movement is not true. You wear your body, and by using it, you repair it. So movement is repair. If you want to repair the tissues, you got to move.
Thank you, Eric.